Hey everybody, it's Josh Alexander from Orange County Housing Market News, your one-stop shop for all things Orange County real estate. So if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, this is a great place to start. On today's episode, I'm going to be going over my October market forecast. So we're going to be talking about some of the clickbait headlines to expect to see over the next month and how to actually look at the data to make sure you're not suckered by these. We're going to be going over what happened last month as well as what that means for October. And then at the very end, I'm going to go over some buyer and seller tips. So if you're thinking of getting in the market in the next month or so, this will be a great episode for you because you'll know exactly what to expect and know exactly how to handle it as you get into the market. So let's go ahead and get into it. So really quick before we get started, if you're finding this content useful, can you please hit that like and subscribe button below? And don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, also hit that bell button. That way you're notified every time a new episode is released. So foreclosures are up 50%, 100% compared to last year. Sales are down compared to last year. We must be hitting the top of the market and the bubble's about to burst, right? Well, these are the type of clickbait headlines you can expect to see over the next month or two as we head through fall. But the problem with that is that they're not putting a lot of this data into context. So I want to do that for you so that way you can look at these articles with an objective eye and kind of understand what's actually happening so you're not scared about the market in terms of foreclosures and sales being down. So let's go ahead and start with the foreclosures. So obviously last year there was a foreclosure moratorium, so there wasn't a lot of foreclosures happening in the market, so the numbers are going to be down. So now that the foreclosure moratorium is over, you're going to see those numbers start popping back up again. So when you start seeing these numbers that are 50%, 100, 150% compared to last year, you really have to put that data into context. So I want to pop up this chart really fast for you and just kind of look at the month of August so you can kind of see what I'm talking about in terms of how scared you really need to be about the foreclosure numbers going up. So first, let's look at August 2020. So foreclosures in August 2020 numbered right around 5,600. This August 2021, they bumped up to about 8,300, so almost a 50% increase. So that's kind of when you're starting to see these articles come out that foreclosures are way up compared to last year. Now, I just want to also put into context what a normal year looks like. So let's go and look at August 2019 to see what that actually is. And when you look at the foreclosures on an average August, you're looking at 28,000 foreclosures. So again, this year we had a little bit over 8,300. In a normal year, 2019, we had 28,000 foreclosures. So this is why it's extremely important to put the context when you're looking at these numbers and not just take it off of last year, because last year, when you're looking at most of the numbers, everything's going to be skewed because of coronavirus, the lockdowns, the foreclosure moratoriums, the forbearance stuff going on. So you need to make sure that you're looking at all the data and not just parts of it. So now let's look at the sales numbers, the amount of units that were sold last year compared to this year. So if you remember last year, we really had a big delay in the housing market because of the coronavirus, because of the lockdown. We didn't really have a spring market like we typically do or a summer market. It was all kind of pushed out into the fall. So we had an extremely active fall market last year with a giant amount of sales, the most amount of sales we've had in fall in a very long time. So when you look at that compared to this year, which we're seeing a more typical market where we had most of our sales happen in spring and summer, and then you have that traditional fall off during the fall season, you're going to see that the numbers for this year compared to last year are obviously going to be smaller. So when you look at those numbers and then you take them even into account to a typical year in 2019, we're actually still doing more home sales than we did in a typical year in 2019. We just haven't hit the amount that we saw in 2020 because of the unique market that we had then. So again, it's very important that when people are looking at the context and taking into account all the data when they're seeing this information pop up online. And it's just one more thing I want you to be aware of. So when you do see these articles, if you want to read them, but just make sure they're actually using data from not just last year, but historical averages as well. So that way you have a better understanding of what's actually happening in the housing market. So now let's go ahead and look at what happened last month in the housing market and how that's going to impact October as we move forward. So last month, over the last couple weeks, let's start with the supply side. So supply over the last couple weeks has dropped steadily by about 5%, and that's completely expected this time of year. During the fall season, we typically see supply slowly start dropping all the way until around Thanksgiving, when you see a big cliff and it drops more significantly as we go into the slowest time of year for real estate, which is the holiday season. So when we look at the actual number in terms of the supply in Orange County, right now we only have a little under 2,200 homes on the market in Orange County. But I want to bring that number up because when you look at the last couple years, so let's look at last year for instance, we had a little over 4,100 homes on the market, 91% more than we do right now. And if you look at a typical market, so averaging the years from 2017 to 2019, the typical amount of homes we have for this time of year on the market in Orange County is around 6,400 homes. So again, right now we have under 2,200 homes. So you can see that we are extremely limited on the amount of inventory we have in Orange County right now. And that's not just Orange County, that goes for pretty much all the counties in Southern California as well. Inventory is at all-time lows. So if buyers are looking for homes right now, there's just not a giant amount of inventory to choose from. So let's go ahead and look on the other side of things, which is demand. So over the last couple of weeks, we've also seen a decrease in demand by about 4%, and that's completely normal for this time of year. So usually we start seeing supply and demand both decrease week by week as we go through the fall, again, leading up to that Thanksgiving break where all of a sudden everything drops more significantly as we head through the holiday market for the housing market. So right now, supply is slowly going down alongside demand. And what that means for the housing market, it means that the days on market, the speed of the market is really unchanged since last month because they've dropped about the same. So Orange County in general, the average days on market, so the time it takes for someone to put the sign in their front yard, place it on the MLS to when it gets into escrow, is still right around that 26-day mark, which is extremely hot seller's market. Anything under 60 days is a hot seller's market. So at 26 days, we're still seeing multiple offers on most homes right now. We're seeing most homes get into escrow within the first week or two, and it's extremely hard for buyers to get into homes unless they're extremely competitive with their offers. So speaking of days on market, I also want to bring up the average that we saw for last year as well as the typical average we've seen from 2017 to 2019, so you can get some context around how hot of a seller's market we're currently in. So again, right now, average days on market for Orange County is about 26 days. Last year at this time, and we were in a very hot market last year, we were looking at about a 38-day for the average days on market. So it's even hotter than it was last year right now in terms of a seller's market. And then when you look at the typical market from, let's say, year 2017 to year 2019, the average days on market for this time of year is usually around 86 days. So again, we're at 26 days right now. Typically, it's 86 days. So again, this is just really showing you how hot of a seller's market we're currently in. And so taking that into account when we start looking forward to what I expect to see happen in October, this really kind of sets us up to really see not much change. So we're going to start seeing in October supply continue to go down. We're going to see that demand continue to go down. And because they'll be going around the same rate, we're going to be stuck in this very hot seller's market for the foreseeable future. So if you're hoping that we're all of a sudden going to see a bunch of homes hit the market and buyers are going to have an easier time finding homes, it's just not going to be the case. The numbers just don't show any slowdown in the market happening in October and really for the rest of the year. There's just so little supply in the market right now that there's nothing that could really happen. For the most part, I don't have a crystal ball. There could always be some crazy catastrophe that happens in the US or in the world that causes everything to be flipped upside down. But right now, when you look at all the economic models and look at the current supply and demand, even if things were to shift a little bit, it's not going to take us out of this extremely hot seller's market that we're in anytime soon. So that's kind of the general update of what to expect in October. It's basically much of the same. There'll be less homes on the market at the end of October than there are right now. Demand will be a little bit lower at the end of October than it is right now, but overall the feel of the market is going to be almost identical to what it is right now when we're sitting at the beginning of October. Okay, so all that data is great if you're a data nerd like myself, but if you're a typical buyer or seller and just want to know what to expect and what my recommendations for you would be over the next month to 2 months in the market, let's take a look at that so you can kind of take all this data and really pack it down to what to expect. So let's look at the buyer side first. So buyers, it's an extremely hot seller's market. There's no way around it. If you're placing offers right now, it's going to be competitive. And it's not going to be changing anytime this year, and it's going to be going through next year as well. So if you're thinking about getting into the market anytime in the next 6 months, sooner rather than later is only going to benefit you. Appreciation is still happening every single week and is expected to happen as we go through next year as well. And home prices are only going to be going up. And on the other side of things, interest rates have started to increase as well. So we're above 3% now. Do I see that going much higher by the end of the year? No, but we might get to 3.1, 3.2 by the end of the year. And every time it goes up, it erodes the amount of purchasing power that you have and really starts to limit the already low choices you have on the market in terms of what homes you can place offers on. So if you are thinking of getting in the market and you're thinking about buying a house in the next 6 months, talk to a lender, get that pre-approval, and start getting out there and looking for a home. And if you haven't already checked out the last video I did about how to set yourself up for success when you are a buyer, make sure you check out the video. I'll link it right up here for you to check out after this episode, because that will kind of give you the basics you need to start with to figure out if now is the right time for you to get in the market, and if so, what to expect, so you're not having any surprises as you enter the market as a home buyer. Okay, so now let's say that you're a buyer that's already in the market and you have been in the market for a month or two or even longer, which unfortunately, because of the current market conditions, is not uncommon for buyers that have been looking for months at a time to find that perfect home and get that perfect offer to be able to get accepted. One, if you're doing this and you're not getting offers accepted, make sure you check out my video up here of the top 5 mistakes that buyers are making in today's market, how to avoid them, because that could help you get over the hump and get your offer accepted. But 2, I'm going to give you another tip that I haven't given out yet for buyers because it's very timely right now, and you'll see why. So if you're a buyer that's been looking in the market for a while, or even if you're just getting into the market, and let's say you have your search criteria set up for up to $700,000. What I recommend for you to do right now is bump that up by about 5%. So if you're looking at $700,000, bump it up to $735,000. And why you want to do this is because you want to take those homes that are slightly above your price range, but have also been sitting on the market for more than 60 days, which, by the way, is more than 20% of homes in Orange County right now. Find those homes that have been sitting on the market for more than 60 days, and those are the type of homes you might be able to place lower ball offers on, because sellers are also at the same point right now where they're saying, hey, the holidays are coming, traffic is dropping, I'm not really getting a lot of interest in my home. Now's the point, either I'm going to entertain a lower offer or take it off the market altogether. So you might be able to sneak in before a lot of these sellers start to take homes off the market, especially those ones that are overpriced to begin with, and be able to get a good deal on the home, get into escrow below the price that you're looking to spend, and be able to close on a home. So if you haven't already done that, again, set up your search for 5% above whatever you're approved for, whatever you decide you want to spend, and start looking for those homes that have been on the market for more than 60 days. Okay, so now let's look at the other side, which is the seller. So sellers, if you're thinking of placing your home on the market this year, this is pretty much your last call. So if you want to get your house sold before the holiday season starts, so you're not living out of boxes and packing up during Thanksgiving or during the holiday season, you really need to try to get your house on the market as soon as you can. And the other reason is demand is continuing to go down throughout the rest of the year. So yes, it's going to be a hot seller's market for the rest of the year. However, you want to take advantage of as many buyers as possible, because that's going to ultimately lead to more multiple offers coming into your house and ultimately a higher profit for you when you sell your house. So if you're trying to get on the market and trying to maximize your profit, now's the time to get it on the market, to try to do that before you start seeing that pretty steep decline once Thanksgiving ends in the amount of buyers looking for homes. And if you're thinking of selling your house and then buying another house, and you're saying, I want to wait because I want to see if I can get a little bit more appreciation out of my home before I sell it, another thing to remember is the last 2 months of the year, you don't typically see very much appreciation, if any at all, because everything's slowing down so much. So really the benefit of waiting for you is not going to be very significant trying to wait until November or December. If you're thinking of selling your home, now is the time to get it on the market. And another thing, if you are thinking of selling your home and buying another house, but you're scared you're not going to be able to find a new place quickly enough to live in while your other house sells, make sure you please check out my video up here that I'll link that goes through the different reasons and different ways you can go about protecting yourself when you're buying and selling your home at the same time. So that way you're fully protected and you don't end up without a house because you sold your house too fast and couldn't find another home in time. There's plenty of ways, and buyers right now are willing to bend over backwards to get into a home, so you can really negotiate these terms that are going to make you successfully be able to sell your home, buy a new home at the same time, and reduce that risk of having any issues when you're doing both at the same time. So the second thing you really need to look at if you're planning on selling your house and buying a new house at the same time, that you really have to remember, because a lot of sellers just concentrate on getting the house sold and don't really look at the buying side of things until they're already in escrow on their current home, is that you have to realize that you're going to be buying a house in the same market that you sold your house in. So what does that mean? It means that if you're sitting there waiting for appreciation to pile up and you're saying, oh, I want to wait another month, 2 months, 3 months down the road to see if I can get a little bit more appreciation out of my home to really maximize that profit, you have to understand that when you go to buy a house, that same appreciation is happening on the house you're trying to buy as well. So that house is now becoming more expensive to purchase. So that extra profit you might have received for waiting an extra 3 or 4 months when you're trying to sell your home is really just going to be eaten back up when you go to purchase a new property, because the appreciation rate tends to be very similar, especially if you're looking at buying in the same market that you sold your house in. So I hope that makes sense. So that's pretty much all I have for you today. I hope you found that information useful. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, please comment below. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and I'll see you on my next show. Bye.